And welcome to the October 2025 session of the Richmond Art Gallery's Artist Salon series, featuring our guest for today, Manuel Axel Strain. My name is Kathy Tikolis. I am the Richmond Art Gallery's Education and Public Programs Coordinator, and I'm here to host the program and moderate your questions for tonight. First of all, on behalf of the Richmond Art Gallery, we would like to welcome you to the program that is hosted by the gallery that is located on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Musqueam speaking peoples, which are the nations that have lived along the Fraser River Delta since time immemorial, including the Musqueam. And I would like to thank everybody out there for joining us and from wherever you're zooming in from today and supporting the Richmond Art Gallery's programs. In a few moments, I'll introduce our guest speaker who will discuss their art and cultural work and some insights on how they sustain both of those for an outstanding art career, followed by some Q&A with all of you out there. But before we begin, just a few housekeeping notes about the program overall and about using Zoom if it's been a while for you. For those of you new to the Artist Salon, this is a program that's monthly. It's free talks and events designed specifically for visual artists and creatives, hosted on the fourth Wednesday of each month from February to November. And the goal of the program is to offer artists a mix of professional development, tips, and advice, along with artists' personal stories and experiences to help strengthen and build our artist community while encouraging artists to keep on making and growing in your practice. The Salon also exists as a private Facebook group, providing resources for artists in the Lower Mainland for things such as artist calls, professional development opportunities, local arts events, and also is a space for you to share your art events and openings and exhibitions and to connect with one another in the Lower Mainland. So I welcome you to join our private Facebook group and share your events with each other, and you can find out more about that. My co-host Melanie has posted that for us all in the chat, so you can sign up with those links there. So our guest artist is Manuel Axel Strain, or Manny, as many of you know. And I want to thank Manny so much for joining us today. Manny is the artist who's currently exhibiting at the Richmond Art Gallery until November 9th, 2025. And I've had the privilege of meeting them and working on a lot of various public art programs over the past few months. And so with this one, this is our final public program together. I wanted to hear more about Manny's overall practice, but also some behind the scenes, which includes not just making art in the gallery, but all the other things you do as a cultural creative to make an art career work and to thrive as an artist and a creative in the Lower Mainland. So Manny will be sharing some of those experiences tonight. And of course, feel free to send in your questions as well. Before I let Manny take over, I'm just going to do a very brief introduction with their bio, and then I'll kind of let Manny take it away. So Manuel Axel Strain is a two-spirit artist from the lands and waters of the Musqueam, Shupukmik, and Syilx peoples, sorry for my pronunciation, based in the sacred region of the Katsi and Kwantlen relatives. Although they attended Emily Carr University of Art and Design, they prioritize Indigenous epistemologies through the embodied knowledge of their mother, father, siblings, cousins, aunties, uncles, nieces, nephews, grandparents, and ancestors. Creating artwork in collaboration with and reference to their relatives, their shared experiences become a source of agency that resonates through their work with performance, land, painting, sculpture, photography, video, sound, and installation. Their artworks often envelop subjects in relation with ancestral and community ties, indigeneity, I'm having a problem with that word today, sorry, indigeneity, labor, resource extraction, gender, indigenous medicine, and life forces. Strain often perceives their work to confront and undermine the imposed realities of colonialism, proposing a new space beyond its oppressive systems of power. They have contributed work to the Vancouver Art Gallery, Surrey Art Gallery, the UBC FINA Gallery, were longlisted for the 2022 Sobey Award, and were a recipient of the 2022 Portfolio Prize. So after all that, Welcome, Manny. I'm really happy to have you here today. And I can help moderate questions as well as your presentation. I can pull up your website and you can just tell me what pages you want me to go to.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Kathy. I really appreciate having you here. And it is very sad that today's the last public program. I've really enjoyed my time working with you and the others at Richmond Art Gallery. Um, so it's an interesting uh, discussion today because I think in many ways I've had a very traditional upbringing as an artist, but in many ways I would say I haven't as well. Um, but yeah, I'll just start by saying I'm really grateful for my parents. Um, they were very encouraging me to be an artist since I was very young. And um, my mom's first cousin is Lawrence Paul Lipton. And as a young person, my mom would take me to his art studio and would just have me sit with him and spend time with him. And we would draw together, or I would bring him drawings and he would adjust them or give me guidance. And sometimes I would just sit there and cut ovoids. And that was probably from about like, I don't know, it was like pretty young, like 12. Um, and then also my Uncle Neil Eustache was one of the first performances at the Grunt Art Gallery. So he would also give me a lot of insights as well. And there's a lot of creative people in the family. And I knew it's interesting, from a young age, probably about like 12, it was encouraged to me to go to Emily Carr. So by the time I was in high school, I already knew what university I wanted to enroll in. And when I got there, uh, I really enjoyed it. The visual culture and the humanities classes, the studio classes were challenging for me. Um, I often found it hard to like create in that kind of structured space with a bunch of other people creating all at the same time. Um, so I did about 2 years at Emily Carr, and then I left. And my mom thought I was crazy um, because she really wanted me to finish. And I also quit. I was going to school and I was working downtown Vancouver at the Earl's Test Kitchen. And it was kind of all at the same time. Um, at my job, they were asking me, like, how do you imagine your future? And I just looked at them and I said, well, not here. And I think in hindsight, they probably were confused because I think they were asking me that to like see like how far I could go with this in this industry with them. And I just said, I'm done. And then so I at the same time quit my job and dropped out of school, which was yeah, I could see why my mom was concerned. And my plan when I did it was I'm just gonna find a space and I'm gonna have a solo exhibition. And I'm like, I don't care which space, I'm gonna find a space. And so I found this little space in Surrey. It's probably not even there anymore. But it was connected to this building called the Rising Sun, and it was like a building for um, people that are trying to abstain from substances. And it was like it was connected to this like facility basically. And I think it was a halfway house too. And I kind of just approached them and I said, like, oh, hey, I really like this space. Can I have an art show here? And then they just said yes. Um, and then I just worked really hard. I ended up getting a day job at Four Cats Art Studio. And I started teaching workshops in elementary schools and some high schools. So I was kind of, teaching. And when I wasn't working teaching, I would just make art all day. And um, eventually we put that into this Rising Sun art gallery. And I just took pictures of everything. Um,
Can I
and then
can I
from
ask
there,
you
I think,
something, Manny?
yeah, yeah,
Because you would have been a young artist at that time.
yes.
How did you have the confidence to start teaching? Because
The
that's,
confidence.
yeah, I think there's not a lot of young artists that feel confident enough to teach, and especially if they didn't have a lot of experience with kids. So,
Um, I think because I became an uncle at a young age. So it was actually my nephew's elementary school. He was in the second grade, and the he went to school and said, "My uncle's an artist, and he can teach us." And then the school just contacted me, and
wow.
um, yeah, and then the school contacted me, and then I went and did the whole school. And then I did other schools. And then I was like, oh, I can get a job doing this. And then I got a job doing it. Um, so I don't know, I guess the hot tip would be like, let all your young people know about your skills. See what they do with it, because they'll tell everyone. Because I think I was technically 19 when my sister had her first kid. So I was very young. Um, and then from there, you just get used to being around kids. So I guess, yeah, the secret is like get a sibling, um, and then have your sibling have a children really young, and just hope it all works out.
Any tips for anyone that wants to start teaching though? Because I mean, that is a different skill than being an artist for sure.
I think I wish someone told me earlier on, like, don't be too hard, don't be too rigid. Um, because I think I was too like, oh, it has to be like this in my mind. And there was these two young people who it was too like rigid. I was just like, it has to be like this, like this is the way it is. And they didn't like that, especially because they were homeschooled. And so they were and I was their art teacher, even though they were homeschooled. So it was the dynamic they had at home with their parents obviously was a lot more free flowing, and that taught me a lot. Um, and yeah, just be confident. Like I didn't know how to use a pottery wheel when I started teaching, and I think they quickly gave me like 30-minute lesson, and then it was just like, okay, this is what we got. And I probably still can't make the perfect vase. I don't think I could probably make a cup and a bowl and a plate. And I didn't let that stop me. I just said, okay, just all you got to do is teach them the basics. And if anyone's trying to make a vase, figure it out. And just no one made a vase. So, like, because I think it's at a higher level of education is obviously very different. And I've gone and taught into post-secondary places as well now. Um, But when I first started, I was young, and it was just like a little art studio. It was, you only need to know the basics. And what that taught me is that because the way I learned this when I was younger too, that as adults, our way of learning is to actually to retain the information better is to teach it because it builds greater neuroplasticity in the brain if we're teaching what we just learned. And it's harder for us to build that neuroplasticity as adults compared to younger people because their brains are developing and it grows faster. So it actually young people that are trying to be artists, like, yeah, probably is very beneficial to be an art teacher because then you're going to retain that technical knowledge for a lot longer. So that was interesting. And then it was about 2006 was my last year teaching. And I knew I wanted to stop because it was starting to take up too much of my time. And I had just applied for a grant through BC Arts and the First Peoples Cultural Council. And I got both of them. I was successful. And I just kind of took that money and made the most of it. And it wasn't much. But I kind of just trusted myself that I'll make this work and I'll just keep going and see where it ends up. And then I didn't do too many group shows, but I had a few, so that brought in a little bit of extra income too. Um, and I think what was different, what I've witnessed like other artists, what's been different about my story is I kind of was like, I'm just gonna try to get solo exhibitions. Um, because I think maybe an art school background, someone that finishes or is more that traditional trajectory. It's like you do a lot of group shows, they accumulate over time, and you build your CV, and then from there you get your solo show. I just did the complete opposite. I just went right for the solo shows. And when the group shows came up, I was, obviously I took part, but I didn't, I tried not to focus too much of my energy on those because I think the success, the successful artists, they're booking the solo shows. So I kind of, that's just how I saw it right away. And, I didn't get all the shows.
Approaching like specific galleries or curators, or were you just like blanketing your portfolio out there? Like how were you approaching places to get shows?
Artist run centers for sure at first. So I think Gallery Gachet was a really good experience um, because I actually ended up working there
Mhm.
eventually too. So, and I was just there earlier today. It's interesting to see how it's changed. And I think the Gallery Gachet was the first, um, larger budget that I got to work with, where it was like you don't just get a little honorarium or something for your work being up. You get like, there was like a Carfax fee and there's like installation fee and there was all the other fees that come with an exhibition. And that was really exciting. And I remember being really kind of panicked because um, I had been doing everything on my own. Like I had been just getting spaces and just installing everything myself. And so it was the first time that I worked with like um, people that were installing the work. And uh, I was so scared. And I just was honest and I just said, like, whoa, like I'm really freaking out here. Like, I don't know how we're gonna get everything done. We only have a few weeks. And they're like, oh, like you actually seem way more prepared than anyone usually is. And I was like, oh, okay. And then um because it's like it's amazing work what people like the installation teams like how much work they do. And like I really think we need to like highlight that more, like how much like behind the scenes. It's like there's the installation teams do a ridiculous amount. And it really a lot of this art we see in the world that's like put on we can't really see without them. Because they do so much. And um So Gallery Gaucher, yeah, and then I kind of did like a performance, and that was the other thing early on I recognized was like people always ask me like, what kind of art do you do? And I'm just like, oh, everything, just everything. And I think that's really served me well is having a diverse skill set of different mediums to work with.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, if you look at the website here, you could see like, there's like elements of photography, there's sculpture and painting, there's performance in the work, and this show does a good job of that because there's like, um, yeah, like there's even like a scent, there's a diffuser in there where I made my own smells. Um,
And where was this show?
this was at Unit 17, at its old location. Um, and so like this work here with the fence, so it's like sculpture, it's performance, because like that fence I literally stole from someone's house. Um, and I just that was kind of like the performance in itself. Like I'm gonna take this. Um, and then also putting there's a red skirt underneath. Um, so I was thinking about um, like the missing and murdered Indigenous women, um, and all the different graves that are kind of buried in all over the city or Stanley Park um, or Port Coquitlam, and the different places where people have died or are they were laid to rest. And then we have these like properties or ownership of land that exists on top of it. Um, so I tried and I still am like it's funny. I was just with uh we call him Scary Larry, Lawrence Paul. Um, I ran into him the other week and I showed him my work and he's like, "Oh, you're still developing." And a part of me wanted to be like, "No, no, like what?" And then I realized like, oh no, it's like a compliment. It's like he's complimenting me that it's like the ability to sort of like keep everything kind of fresh is a good thing.
Mhm.
Uh,
You're not stuck. And
no, I've
and
I've been very, very like I actually will very rarely like show things the exact same way twice.
mhm.
Um, there might be like similar pieces from one exhibition to the next, but I tend to really mix it up. Um, or invite curators to mix it up, like um, and that's the other thing, the conversation with curators, it's so important. Like I think Zoe's here, but I remember there were times where I'm like, Zoe, what do you think? Like just ask people what they think or get their insights. And I think it's like a respectful act or question because it's like that's what they're there to do. But
Mhm.
also like I don't ever like the idea of like my vision is the only vision. I think it's boring. Um, because that's the collaborative process that I'm talking about when you read the bio. I'm constantly going to different people, being like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about that?" Or you know, and just seeing what they think because it's the different perspectives is what keeps things fresh and keeps things exciting. Um, and like I've even shown like um works with like uh my little niece or my brother. Um, I've just invited them to be like, yeah, like do whatever you want. um, and I just think it's such a fun and exciting thing to do. To invite collaboration.
But I find, you're very open to anyone. Like I'm just thinking, some artwork is, especially once it's like in the exhibition, it's very precious. Don't get too close. Whereas you haven't been that way at all.
No.
Especially when you're in the gallery with people, like you are very open to people interacting with the work that maybe not every other artist is comfortable with.
Oh yeah, like Kathy's talking about, like last Friday we had a bunch of young people come in, and it was a Friday night. We had the like fancy champagne juice, and we let the kids just draw over the inside of the longhouse, in the mini longhouse. And the funny thing about that is the first time that happened was, um, if you go to the Kathy on the website, I think if you go to the page, um, let's see here, what page is it?
There.
I think it might be the first yeah, yeah. So if we see that little, go to the first image, the little cardboard fort. So this was
Mhm.
just, I went to my dad's house in the basement. My brother and my niece um, had made this little cardboard fort, and I really liked it. And I just approached them like, "Oh, can I like use that in my art?" And then, I acquired it. I gave them the money, and I said, "Here, pay for it this much." And um, I printed the blanket and the other pieces, embellishments for like my own additions to it. But this was gone to Surrey Art Gallery, and at Surrey Art Gallery, I guess some kids just felt comfortable and started drawing in it, all over it. And I think they were kind of scared when they called me. They were like, "Oh, like some kids started drawing on it," and I'm like, "It's a piece of cardboard. Like it's like what? That's great. Like go for it. Like there's nothing wrong with that." Um, and I think I learned that lesson when I was probably, yeah, my niece was about 3 and had splashed a big thing of paint on one of the canvases I was working on. And I wanted to get really mad, but I just couldn't get mad at a child for using art. And I kind of just incorporated their splash into the painting. Um, and so that's kind of like when I learned, like, and this was like probably 10 years ago now, when I just learned like, oh, it's not really worth it to get caught up in the perfection of it. Um, and you kind of just got to go with the flow, right?
Does that
Um,
does that sort of idea impact the types of spaces you might want to show in?
no,
Think no, you would show anywhere.
yeah, pretty much, like,
Yeah,
you know,
I'm just thinking because
um,
some places are very, people are really guarded from the artwork. So just
well, that's
whereas,
okay. We did both because if you go
yes.
to Richmond Art Gallery, there's no touching signs.
Mhm.
That's okay, like, um, I'm okay with both. And I think ultimately, I was thinking about this today, like, what is like the number one thing I would want people, like artists or young artists or emerging or um, artists in general, is just like just to trust your intuition and follow your intuition, because it's really all that's gotten me here. Because I have to thank my family for bringing me up the way I did. Um, it's not, obviously they brought me here too, but a lot of things, I just sort of trusted things, um, and not overthought it, to the point where it's like sometimes I don't really know what I'm trying to say. But then as I trust myself, when it does come time for me to figure out what I'm trying to say, it just naturally will come out because I've been trusting myself this whole time. Um, Not to say there isn't like ridiculous amounts of planning that goes into things, because there is. There's a tremendous amount of planning and research, but um, I think that's what I found hard about art school. Was it was so controlled. Um, Not only like the literal environment you're in, but like just the structure of everything, all the timing. And I know I don't want to like shit talk art school because I actually do love the people in my car, and we had a great time there. And it has changed a lot. Like this is back in like 2011, like 2011, 2014 when it was on Granville Island. It was a very different time.
Mhm.
Uh, and then even before that, it was very different. So it is very inspiring to see how much has changed, and it's really exciting to see how accessible things are. Um, but yeah, I think it was like I just the being free, and then also I've always been very. I think what's been helpful to me, what I've been told by others, is that I can be very direct. Um, and it can be, I think for some people maybe I would assume it's a little abrasive at times, um if you don't know me, but it's just like it's a job, like I do view this like a career. It's a love, and I'm very passionate about it, and so it, I trust my intuition, and when I do that I know exactly what needs to happen. And I there is a plan in my head of like we need this, we need this, we need this. Um, and that's the conversation that kind of happens over like a year or two, those conversations of like, we got to get this done and this done. Um, and so I think it is incredibly valuable to know what you need. Um, and then how you get to that intuitive place of understanding what you need is the process of like I spend ridiculous amounts of time in nature. Like what people don't see at Richmond Art Gallery behind the scenes is that, you know, the Vines Art Society was also, the festival was wrapping up at the same time I was preparing for this. So I was doing the festival, I was painting. So it was exhausting, but at the end of the day, which was usually like 3 in the morning, in the summertime, I would end my day by going into the Alouette River. And it's kind of crazy because it's like 3 in the morning and I'm going to go jump in the river. But um, that's an old, like Musqueam teaching, is to cleanse yourself, is you go in the river at nighttime. And so I found myself doing that like pretty much every day, preparing for the show at Richmond Art Gallery, and also doing the Vines Art Society festival. Um,
Can you talk a bit about that, about your maybe how did you get started in sort of festivals and organizing? Because you talked a bit about teaching so far. How did you move into festival type?
well, there's two festivals I've been involved in. So there's the Vines Art Society Festival, and then there's also the Simpcw, which is the Come Towards the Fire Festival that happens at the Chan Center. And that's a partnership through Musqueam. And so Vines came first. And so I originally was, after my exhibition at Gary Gachet, they had a position open up for a programming programming position, and I just applied. Um, and the collective at the time, they're no longer a collective, but the collective agreed to hire me. And then COVID happened, so there was a lot of people in crisis. And uh, in Vancouver, we had the Strathcona Park was a tent city, and so I approached Vines because their mandate is to work with, is to be grassroots led. So I approached them. I said, "Hey, at Gower Gachet, we have some money to put together a art book um, of Oppenheimer Park." And if people don't remember, there was a tent city at Oppenheimer Park, and then it went to Strathcona Park. So um, I would just go out with Heather, who's the co-artistic director of the Vines Art Society, and we would just find artists in Tent City and bring them some supplies, and then we gave them a date, and we said, bring whatever you have and we'll take some pictures of it. And if you have any writing, we'll have someone there to help you write a bio if you don't have one. And then we put together a whole book. Um, and this was in 2020, so it was a little. I remember being like, "This is crazy. Like, this is how are we, like, how is this happening?" But yeah, we made the book, and then I think I approached Vines as an artist first, and I said, I'd love to do this performance. So I did a couple, and then they asked me to be an MC, and then they asked me to do some consultation because they wanted to have some of their events at Stanley Park, and um, Stanley Park is it's a very like sacred place for Musqueam, Squamish, and tsleil It's like a place of ceremony, and you know, I've been told by Auntie Mary that our family was one of the last to be removed from Stanley Park. So uh, Heather asked me to consult with them at the Vines Art Society. Um, and then they just approached me and offered me a job to be co-director earlier this year because Heather would like to uh, move on. Heather Lemieux is the founder of the Vines Art Society. Um, And what I kind of encourage, this is an insider secret, I guess. I told Zoe this. It's not enough time, but I said, if you are a creative person and you're in a role at a creative organization, I think they're like in the contract, we can put creative leave because for us to be creative in our jobs, we have to be creatives ourselves too. And that requires being time off to work on our own projects. Um, so I'd always say that, like, get creative leave in your contracts, cultural leave as well, in terms of cultural work, um, but cultural leave, um, which is different. It's very different than a creative leave. And then um, the one thing I also do, I'm just gonna give away all my secrets now. In your contract, find times you can be like paid to be at events because it's all interconnected. So it's like if you're in an artistic director role, the job expectation is to be like connected to the broader arts community, but then the contract, you know, if it's Friday night, like it's very common, but like if it's Friday night and I'm at an event, like I'm gonna bank that time as Vine's Art Society, like networking time.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna do it all the time because it's exhausting to be around people all that much,
Yeah.
but I'll do it maybe once or twice a month, go check out a couple events once, once or twice a month.
Mhm.
Uh, and yeah, so that's how they all kind of connect to each other and have good boundaries too, right? Like that's something I wish someone told me earlier on, like because with a job like this, and there's like so many elements of community and friendship and relationship building, it can get hard to like know when the work stops. And so um, I always encourage people to have that as well.
And I think that's very common in the arts is that because people that work in the arts are very passionate about it and they tend to give a lot and probably
Hmm.
more than they should because it is their passion. So they want to help other creatives. They want a festival to succeed. Like they want our
Hmm.
city to be a creative community. So they do give a lot, and that is, yeah, it is good to draw those boundaries for sure, but it is difficult.
Yeah, like if people look like on Instagram, like I don't really post anything. Like, and that's a boundary I made for myself a couple years ago where I was just like, I have so much going on, something's got to give. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to post everything on my Instagram page. This just isn't time. I'm better at it now. I don't have to do this anymore. But at one point, I had to delete my email from my phone. So because I just couldn't, I had to just delete my email from my phone.
Mhm.
And then probably about like earlier this year, I was like um, better at managing my time, and I could, just let the email sit there without having to like, you know, um, but uh, that was a hard lesson for me to learn. You know, to leave things for like it's okay to rest. You know, I should be careful because it's like getting for this show. Zoe knows how little I slept, but but I balanced it out. Like I made it was a routine. It was like finish work, go jump in the Alouette River, go to bed, wake up, go to the gym, do the festival, come home, paint, do it again. You know.
Mhm.
So
But luckily that was only for a set amount of time. It's not I would
it
hope
was
it's
10,
not an
10 days.
ongoing.
Yeah, it wasn't ongoing. Oh,
Yeah.
and hydrate.
Yes.
Zoe was always there with the water, always there to hydrate me, which is great.
So what is coming up for you now? Because now the show's up. We're nearing the end of your exhibition at Richmond. So
Mm.
what's coming up for you?
Well, the exciting news is, I believe, Tobin over at Unit 17 is going to take Homo Child, which was previously at the Polygon, to Miami.
Oh,
So that will
wow.
go to Miami. Um, and then I think there's an exhibition curated by, I can't remember. Well, I'm not sure exactly who's curating it, right? But there's an exhibition at the Bill Reed Gallery that will be next year. Um, I'm probably forgetting. Oh, and then there'll be like I feel really grateful because the people at Emily Carr have asked me to take part in an alumni show, and that felt really special because I didn't finish, so I've never considered myself an alumni.
Right.
So to be like included in that was pretty cool. To be like, oh, I guess yeah, okay, I'm an alumni. Even though I never finished, it feels great. Um, and then there's one other show, but I can't remember.
And you're still doing vines right now, and
Yeah, yeah. So
that's
yeah,
year long.
yeah. So I was working with Vines today, and will be tomorrow. Probably yeah. Still at Vines. Yeah. Oh, but like also I think one of the things I did in the beginning that helped me a lot too to build connections, I was open to the idea of um, curating. So I curated a show too. So yeah, I kind of was just kind of like, don't put all my eggs in one basket in the beginning. Like, I'm gonna have all these different mediums and I'm gonna apply for all these different things and um, put on many hats, I guess.
Right.
Mhm.
But I would think doing all that and just all the different like not just the exhibitions you're involved with, but all the other stuff probably helps get you more exhibitions. Because I know like that is a question I often get from, say, especially emerging artists of how to get a show. But I think everything you're doing will just keep perpetuating getting more shows, because you are so connected, you're working with the community, working in the community.
Mhm.
And
Oh, and I wasn't afraid to ask. That was the other thing.
yeah, that
Like
helps.
I would just it's I guess the kids are calling it these days cold calling. I
Mhm.
would cold call. I
Right.
would just call, and a lot of times it was just no or like or look at our website. But I would just call and be like, hey, like I'm just looking to have an exhibition and wondering what's the options are. And sometimes they'd refer me to a submission process. Sometimes they'd invite me to have a meeting. And yeah, I would just make the calls, which is, I don't think anyone, it's like when my sister said, like, oh, you're so millennial and you cold call. I was like, oh, like, well, how else do you do things? Because you got to talk to people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But it is also kind of a scary thing for a lot of people to do that.
Just pick up the phone
Yeah.
and start calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. You know, I would
Definitely.
even show up. I would even just walk into galleries and ask about it too. I think that's what happened at Gallery Gachet, actually. I just walked in one day off the street and was just like, oh, this is cool. And then I just asked them, like, how does it work? And then they gave me a submission, an email with the submission process. And then I actually, the other thing I've done, which I don't think many people do, is writing is actually incredibly challenging for me. When I can do it well, but it's really slow. It takes me a long time. So I just will call and be like, hey, can I just send you a video? And I'll just record myself. Or I'll be like, can we set aside time to have a meeting instead as of a and you can record the meeting if you need to show a jury or whatever. So that was always helpful to ask for that, to ask to be because I think my communication style is much better in person or like through a conversation, as opposed to like writing. Well, Zoe clocked it once. Like I struggle with like writing emails so much that like I asked AI to write like response, and so it was like, "Did you use AI to use that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did," because it was so different from my like short like quick responses. It was like this nice. So like know your communication style, what works, what doesn't, and know other people's too, like what works for other people too, and be responsive to that. Mhm.
But knowing you either want to, help. I mean, because I've had also too a lot of artists like hire an editor to write all their stuff for them, or that sort of thing, or especially if language is an issue.
Well, I've
Um,
never done that. That's a good
and
idea.
but I mean, a lot of it's or like you have like taper. I think that recording that's a brilliant idea too. Like that's if someone's willing to do that for you, that's great. So yeah, asking for
Mhm.
those
And
are.
I've actually had no one say no to that.
Mhm.
Oh, now watch. Now everyone's gonna be asking to be recorded, and we're all gonna be stuck watching 6 hours of submission videos.
But I mean, it's so easy now, right? With most everyone has a phone or something, so it makes it a lot easier.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially
But I
once
don't know how much time do we have? I can't remember.
not a lot. So I'm wondering if anyone out there would like,
Yeah.
can I, did you want to show anything on your website, or should I stop sharing, or what would you like?
No, I need just questions.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. So
We
yeah,
started about 5 minutes late, so we can go 5 minutes over. Is that okay?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Uh,
turn my camera off now.
so if there's I mean, there was the one question that came in early, so I can't remember, sorry, Jack, what it was in reference to, asking what do you mean by life forces? So,
Oh, that is a good question. Um, it's everything is the easiest way for me to describe it. Um, but I guess what I'm getting at is that it's just like the nature of everything. Um, and I think when I say that, I'm saying because usually I think when we think about indigenous concepts or like, um, well, I'll say decolonization specifically. When we think about that concept, it's like we're usually thinking about the people, but it's so much more than that. Um, it's the way we understand the world and respecting that like a rock is not just a rock, it's like a human in itself, and a plant is a form of life that also is like a human in itself, and we're all people. And so when I say life forces, I mean like everything, like getting us to think about life in a different way than what we're used to.
Great, thank you. Well, yes, and then Jack mentioned it was in reference to your bio when you said that, but yes, I think you covered it. I'm not seeing any other questions, people out there, so if you would like to send in your questions, either the Q&A or the chat, and Manny can answer anything. Otherwise, I mean, we are getting close to 8 o'clock, so we could also wrap up if there are no more, and I don't see any more questions.
You know, we
Um,
can sit in silence for 3 minutes too, Kathy.
no, or I'll turn my camera off too for that.
You know, we could all take a meditative 3 minutes.
Um, but yeah, I think, oh, there is another question. Just for if you had any advice for an emerging artist who's who's either in art school or about to start art school.
Oh yeah, this is a good question. Okay, so if you're about to start art school, really hold on to who you are as a person, because it can get really confusing in there. And I think because I kind of had this experience of being like chronically unique as a young person, being like, um, I'm artsy. And then you get to art school and it's like, that's literally everyone. So, um, really like have that idea of who you are and like hold on to it like with all dear life and keep learning who you are. Like that was, I wish that was kind of like instilled in me at a younger age. Like, well, actually, Auntie Mary was really, Mary Point was really, really helpful in that regard. She was always just encouraging me to know who I was as a like Musqueam person, and my mom too, is a, being from Secwepemc and the Syilx nations. She's like always encouraging me to remember that part of me. And I think that served me really well. So know who you are. And then if you're emerging, like I said earlier, like just trust your intuition. Like really trust it and follow it and don't let people get in your head. Um, because it's not going to be, it's people are going to disagree with you and people will um, not always see eye to eye, and that's okay. Because if you trust yourself enough, you'll be able to manage it all if you trust yourself.
Great. I mean, I know Manny and I talked a little bit about my experiences at Emily Carr too, which were different, much more, I think it's getting so much better now. Because yeah, especially if you're a young person who doesn't know yourself, it can really knock you down. So it is good to keep that in mind of who you are and where you come from. Another question is, have you ever done or interested in doing residency in another country or collaborating with other Indigenous peoples in other countries?
I have done residencies in other countries actually. I went to England last year. And that was a blast. And you know what? Like, I know my relationship with residencies is really complex. So when I got there, I just told them like, oh, like I'm th maybe they shouldn't have said this if they were looking for results, but they told me like, oh, like, you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. And I just said, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to then. And I didn't make a single goddamn thing when I was there. And I think for their grant reporting, they're like, oh, like, what do we write? And I'm like, oh, just say I did a reverse anthropological survey on the ontology of the British people. Yeah, I looked at the people and I made a lot of observations. Um, and then, yeah, of course, I would love to meet with other Indigenous people across the world. I think it's a funny concept because really we're all indigenous somewhere. Um, so that's such a big discussion on what indigeneity is. But I think, yeah, like I would love to. I know we had the privilege of having indigenous people from other places. Um, at the gallery, we had a group of curators, international group of curators from around the world, and many of them were indigenous. Um, but now my thinking goes to um, like if we truly value like the sovereignty of indigenous people, then it's like technically showing work in Saskatchewan would be kind of like international if we can accept that First Nations are their own sovereign people. Just a thought. Just I just thought about.
Is there anywhere you'd really like to go in
Oh,
terms of
Australia.
residencies? Yeah,
Australia,
yeah,
without a doubt.
yeah, and such a big country, so much to explore as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or New Zealand. Yeah, New Zealand. New Zealand would be great.
Mhm. Yeah, well, that will be your next
And
application processes of working on that. Another question, which I think are two very similar questions actually. Kat was saying they loved what you shared about being so open to hearing from galleries, curators, family, etc., about how to show your work. And was there a time when you really wanted to show something a certain way and got pushback or received suggestions of how to show your work that you never thought about and were really excited about?
oh, absolutely. Like so many times. And I think that's when I learned my lesson. The first was I'm not going to say any names, but it was another indigenous. It was a collective of indigenous people, and um, they didn't want to show what I was offering at this one space because they said it was too political. Um, which is like if that's not censoring, then like what is? And um, I kind of just told them like, okay, well, like I don't want to work with you again then if you don't want to show that. And I didn't. And then I think trying to think of where that's kind of like the main instance I could think of. I'm trying to think if it's happened anywhere else.
But did you get a lot of pushback when you were a student? Or was it more just the structure that you just couldn't work in?
I just couldn't work. Okay, so I'm chronically late. The good folks at Richmond Art Gallery probably know this. I'm just chronically late, and sometimes I'm early and on time, but a lot of the time I'm late. And I was late all the time in art school, and they just would penalize me for being late, or just not showing up. Because if it was like a day where everyone's just gonna hang out, we're gonna make art together, it's like it didn't really interest me because I like the privacy of working. Like I like it's kind of confusing because I have this like rich collaborative process, but then I'm like also when I'm like painting or something, I just like to do it alone, which is a funny thought, but
Makes total sense to me. I get it. Yeah.
yeah. So when I was at Emily Carr, if it was like a day like we're in the studio today and we're just gonna work on this, like I just wouldn't go, and so I would show up to the critiques, and it was so frustrating. And what was the main reason I left is because the teacher would be like, "This is really good," and like I don't remember it ever going bad or pushback during a critique. It was always very successful.
Right.
But then they would still fail me
Right.
because I was late, missed so many classes,
Mhm.
and I just was like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, how can you just love what I do and encourage me to keep doing it, but then fail me or tell me to go? I think the one teacher was kind of generous enough to be like, I think at this point you got to find a way to get credit for this without taking my class.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they just thought you were ready. You didn't need a couple more years.
Yeah, I didn't need a couple more years. They're like,
Yeah.
you're good.
Yeah, probably. Wouldn't be surprised because
But I did see a lot of people like got bad critiques, and I always felt so bad for them, and they'd be like crying.
yeah.
And I always felt bad. I felt really bad because there's people there are like they're there every day, they show up to class, they're on time, and then there's me that just never shows up and then just shows up when we have to put something on the wall and it goes well. Like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's art's a weird thing that way. Like, because there's the game of art, which you can excel at and play the game really well, which I've not. Or you could just like have really strong work and learn lessons the hard way and how to play the game.
Yeah, which I think ties into the other question about when you get lots of negative feedback, but you still learn, but you need to kind of keep, or I guess it's not really a question, but you need to kind of keep believing in your ideas. And I mean, I think that is how you survive art school, really.
Yeah, you just keep pushing, and eventually you get known for it. Like that aesthetic or that vibe. I guess it's the same. Like I don't make traditional, like quote unquote, like I don't even know what the word traditional even is anymore, what it means, but like traditional, like Coast Salish style art. But like I still know the history, the reference points, and I look at them. I just have different results. And I guess there have been times where there's been a little bit of like, whoa, that's really different. But I never took it as a bad thing. I took it as like this is the freedom of who we are as a people is that I'm allowed to do this.
But it's been interesting just seeing some of the comments coming through the gallery, like just in our, the front book that people write in. And I think a lot of the comments were like, this is unexpected, yet I still recognize it as Coast Salish. So I think you're definitely it's still in you, it's still there, it's still being expressed, even if it is a very contemporary and for you personal way of expressing it.
Yeah, I always think it's funny when the like back and forth between contemporary and traditional because the reference points that I look at are like pictographs. So it's like Coast Salish art from like thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
So it's like it's so old, it's like old. It's like ancient that I'm looking at, you know? And I think that's where it gets interesting is that I'm looking at like some of the oldest forms of visual culture that we have, then I'm creating what is being perceived as the newest.
Right. But I think that's, what creates the dialogue and what gets people's interest. So good job, Manny. I don't see more questions and we're, past 8 o'clock. So Manny, I just want to thank you so much for
Mhm.
the past few months, really, not just tonight. It's been great getting to learn about your work and to learn about your family and to learn more about this land where we are. I've learned so much from you over the past few months, so I really appreciate it. And yes, as Zoe says, please, if you haven't seen the show yet, please come out. You have until November 9th to see the work. It is a great show where you'll be fully immersed in everything and get to see lots of different things. And yeah, just thank you so much, Manny. It was really great having you here tonight. And thank you everyone online for joining us. I appreciate you out there. And hopefully we'll see you again next month.
Mm. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.